A slave, a nation, a spy, and a war for freedom. This is the story of a man whose name was never written in history books. This is the story of the spy who single-handedly changed the fate of a nation. In the American War of Independence, there are many names: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, but there is one name that is never mentioned. That name is James Armistead Lafayette. He was a slave. He had no army, no weapons, no cannons. What he had was a mind, and that mind defeated the most powerful army in the world. This is the story of America's first double agent. This is the story of the man without whom America might not have become free. In 1748, in the state of Virginia, a slave boy was born. His name was James. His mother was a slave. No one knew his father's name. From the moment he was born, his fate was already decided. Be born, live as a slave, die as a slave. But James did not accept that fate. He wanted to learn how to read. He wanted to learn how to write. But slaves were not allowed to be educated. He wanted freedom, but slaves were not meant to be free. So James learned in secret. He learned to read quietly. He learned to write quietly. And he realized something. He had a power. That power was knowledge, and that knowledge would take him somewhere. He didn't know where, but he knew one thing: he would not die a slave. In 1775, the fire of revolution erupted in America. 13 colonies rose against the British Empire. George Washington formed an army. People were fighting for freedom, but that freedom was not for everyone. It was meant only for white people. For slaves, nothing had changed. James thought, who should I fight for? The people who want to keep me a slave, or the people who also want to keep me a slave? He made a decision. He would join the side that could give him freedom. He joined the American army, but the American army was weak. The British army was the most powerful in the world. They had weapons, cannons, ships, money. The Americans had almost nothing. Washington was losing battle after battle. His soldiers were hungry, barely clothed, deserting. It seemed like the American Revolution was about to collapse, and then James made a move that would change history. James went to his commander and said, "Send me into the British army. I will work for them. I will be their slave. I will be their spy. But in reality, I will work for you." His commander looked at him, a slave, a black man, wanting to infiltrate the most powerful army in the world. He laughed. He said, "This is madness." James replied, "Madness is the last weapon we have left." The commander thought about it, and then he agreed. In 1781, James entered the British army. He presented himself as a runaway slave. He said he hated the Americans, that they wanted to keep him enslaved, and that he wanted to serve the British. The British officers saw him, a slave, black man, and thought he could be useful. They took him in. James was now a servant in the British army. He cooked for them, washed their clothes, cleaned their horses, but his eyes were always open. His ears were always listening. He heard everything. He remembered everything. And every night he passed that information to the American forces. Soon James earned the trust of the British officers. He was hardworking, quiet, always smiling, never argued. The officers began keeping him close. Now he wasn't just cooking. He sat near them, listened to their conversations, looked at their maps, heard their plans, and he remembered everything. He never wrote anything down, because if he was caught with paper, he would be killed. Everything stayed in his mind, and his mind was sharp, very sharp. One day, James discovered that the British general, Lord Cornwallis, was in Virginia. He had positioned his army at a place called Yorktown. He was preparing to deliver the final blow to the American forces. James also learned that Cornwallis was expecting reinforcements by sea. British ships were on their way from New York. If those ships arrived, the American army would be finished. James also learned how Cornwallis had positioned his troops, making it extremely difficult for the Americans to attack. He had all the information, but there was one problem. How would he get it to Washington? James came up with a plan. He took a small boat and began crossing a river in the dead of night. Behind him was the British army. Ahead of him was the American army. Between them was darkness and water. With every stroke of the oar, his life was at risk. If a British guard saw him, he would die. If the boat flipped, he would die. But he kept going. For hours, he kept going. And before dawn, he reached the American camp. His commander saw him, exhausted, wet, starving, but with fire in his eyes. James revealed everything: where the British army was, how many soldiers they had, where their cannons were, where their weaknesses lay, and most importantly, when the British ships were arriving. He said, "If you don't attack within 2 weeks, those ships will arrive and this war will be over." The commander immediately sent the message to Washington. Washington made a decision. He would move his entire army to Yorktown. September 1781. The American army reached Yorktown. The French army joined them. They surrounded Cornwallis from all sides. Cannons roared, bullets rained. The British army was trapped. They could neither advance nor retreat. Cornwallis sent for help from New York, but it was too late. The time James had warned about had already already passed. Every escape route was sealed. October 19th, 1781. Lord Cornwallis surrendered. He laid down his sword before the American general. The British army had been defeated. The war for American independence was effectively over, and it had all been made possible by a slave, a man who risked his life, a man who delivered the entire British strategy into American hands. When George Washington heard about him, he fell silent. He said, "Without that man, this war would not have been won." The war ended. America became free, but James was still a slave. He went to his owner and said, "I risked my life for this country. I want my freedom." His owner replied, "You are a slave. Slaves do not become free." James was furious. He thought, "I helped free a nation, yet I am not free." He asked his commander for help. The commander wrote to Washington. Washington responded, "This man is a hero. He must be freed." In 1787, James finally gained his freedom at the age of 40. After spending 4 decades as a slave, he changed his name. He became James Armistead Lafayette, taking the name of the French general who had helped America win its independence. Now he was free, but freedom was more than just breaking chains. He bought land, he got married, had children. He became a simple farmer. He never told anyone what he had done. He stayed silent because he knew if people found out that a slave had helped shape the path to American freedom, they might never accept it. James died in 1830 at the age of 82. He died quietly, and with him, his story disappeared. No one knew who this simple farmer really was. On his grave, there was only a stone, and on that stone, it read, James Lafayette. No praise, no honor, no recognition. But the story did not end there. 100 years later, in 1930, historians discovered old documents. In those documents was James's name. They learned that a slave had delivered the entire British strategy before the Battle of Yorktown. They learned that George Washington himself had praised him. They learned that after the war he had lived as a simple farmer and that his grave had nothing but a name. The historians were stunned. A nation that celebrates its fight for freedom had forgotten one of its greatest heroes.